Hey, my name is Craig Bell, and today I'll be interviewing Miss Walker about the late Dr. Johnny Carr, the business establishment from Benmore Motel, and the late Ralph David Abernathy and the Martin Luther King Jr.
I'm Geraldine Walker, and I'm more than happy or elated to do this interview for Mr. Bell because he has an interest to be great in the works that he's performing now, and I am glad that I met him. He's a wonderful guy, he's a gentleman, and he's really interested in his work, and he certainly believes that God can do all things. The first person that we're going to talk about will be the late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr. The late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr resided at 720 South Hall Street in Montgomery, Alabama, and I was fortunate enough to live next door to her. Upon the passing of my mother at the age of 12, I moved here with my great aunt, Vanderbilt Bishop Linda Christina Harris, and she raised me, another sister, and two brothers. One brother has gone on to be with the Lord, and that was the baby boy. At this time, I am still living next door to the late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr. The late Dr. Carr was a member of Hall Street Baptist Church for 78 years, and she sang in the James Burke Memorial Choir, and she led many songs. She was a woman with a beautiful voice. The late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr was the manager of Atlanta Life Insurance Company in downtown Montgomery, and her husband, Alan Carr Sr., was the assistant manager of the insurance company. After they collected the money, they came to their home, and people brought money to the home if they were not at the office, and they gave them the receipt for it, and they moved on to their next place of going. She had 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. She had a great number of grandchildren, and at the present time, the late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr bought the house in 1943, and my great-aunt bought the house that I'm living in for 70 years in 1948. At the present time, she has 2 great-grandsons, Isaac and Noah, residing in the home and keeping it up. The late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr also was the president of the MIA, the Montgomery Improvement Association, for 35 years, the only female at the time. The late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr was strongly against those Jim Crow laws, and we all marched up and down the city streets in Montgomery, Alabama, singing, "We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, we do believe we shall overcome someday." And also in the church, she was the supervisor or the director of BTU, that's Baptist Training Union. It started each Sunday at 5. I have 2 brothers, one gone on to be with the Lord, and 1 sister, and I'm still here also. She came by the house and called us by name, starting with the oldest one, Warren, Geraldine, George, and Mary Alice. Let's go. My great aunt said, "Let's go now. You're not going to be late. Let's go." I didn't want to go because we had those turnip greens and roast beef and rice and gravy and that old-fashioned cornbread and that tea, and I was lying down. But my aunt called the second time. I jumped up and got ready and marched on to the church. We always had to put the church first. We had to go to the country and go to church. But when we joined Hall Street Baptist, where the late Dr. Johnny Carr was there as a member for 78 years, then we didn't have to go to the country. Because when we went to the country, when we came back, it was night. But when we went to Hall Street, it was still day. So I got a pleasure out of going to the country. You go wherever the church is and wherever there's a messenger with a message, then that's where you want to be. Because we need to know about the Lord and His Son, His only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, who died on Calvary's cross on Golgotha Hill late one Friday evening. The late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr also believed in voting, she and her husband. They would set up at the community center in our community and register people to vote. And not only that, sometimes in the church's parking lot, there was a set-up booth for people to register who were not voters. If you did not know how to fill the paper out. We would fill it out for you and let you sign your name. I took part in that also. So the late Dr. John Rebecca Carr played a great role and was a key figure in voting and civil rights, because she felt like God created us all equal and we all have the same Father. The late Dr. John Rebecca Carr, her legacy lives on. There's a monumental sign in her house telling who lives there on South Hall Street, 720 in Montgomery, Alabama, 36104. At this time, that concludes what I would like to say about the late Dr. Johnny Rebecca Carr, who played a key role in the lives of myself and my two brothers and my sister. May God bless her. May she rest in peace. At this time, I'm going to talk to you about the Benmore Hotel, a business establishment on High Street in Jackson, the first black motel built. There were 3 floors in the motel. The first floor was a restaurant where you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. On the second floor, there was lodging. On the third floor, there was a club for entertainment and for social gathering and social affairs. The club hosted many engagements and many people. And when people came from out of town, there was a motel there for them to go and spend the night or spend 2 or 3 days or whatever they needed to accommodate them while they were here in the city of Montgomery, Alabama. The motel is not functioning at the present, but it is still standing, and from an external view, it looks well. And one thing about the Benmore Hotel, they did not believe in violence. They did not believe in someone losing control of their behavior. Everything there was decent and in order. And someone is going to try and get the motel back functioning properly with all 3 floors. And I'm praying to God that it will happen before I pass on. At the present time, I'm 70 years old and 6 months old. And I thank God for the promise of 10. And at this present time, I'm working on long favor, which is 4 scores, and that's 80 years. I ask God to give me the strength to continue to serve as a member of Hall Street Baptist Church. I joined that church at the age of 12, and it was in 1961 that I accepted Christ in Vacation Bible School, and I'm still there working for the Father. I was chairman of Vacation Bible School. I was chairman of All Auxiliary Day. I'm assistant chaplain in my Genevieve W. Johnson's Matron Circle number 2. And I work on programs such as Family and Friends, Women's Day, and I do whatever I'm asked. I thank God for the gifts, and I thank Him for the talent. And I'm using them to uplift the kingdom of God and to show others that if you want to get to heaven, you need to serve God. Put Him on the top. He said, if you seek me first, my kingdom, my righteousness, all things will be added. The next person that I would like to talk to you about is the late Dr. Ralph D. Abernathy. The late Dr. Ralph D. Abernathy also resided on Hall Street, and his house is still standing, and it's in good shape or good condition, and people are always driving by to see where the late Dr. Ralph D. Abernathy's home is. And he was the pastor of First Baptist Church on Ripley Street, and his church is still functioning, and everything there is decent and in order. People are always coming wanting to see his church. He was a great preacher, and he was a key figure in the movement, just like the late Dr. John Rebecca Carr and the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The next figure that I will speak to you briefly on is the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He pastored the Dexter King Memorial Baptist Church on Dexter Avenue, which was about 1 building away from the Capitol. The late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had 4 kids. His parsonage was located on Jackson Street. His wife was Coretta Scott King. She was always with her husband, helping him to march and to speak as to why we needed to have equal rights and why God created all of us equal. Why was there a black water fountain and a colored water fountain? And why was there a white water fountain? God created all of us in His own likeness and in His own image. He said, don't throw stone for stone. And you should love one another just like He loved us. And where there's love, there's togetherness. The late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. believed in one key thing about the whole movement: nonviolence. There were many times that they beat him up and threw him in jail for no reason. But one thing we know, that out of it, we got equality we got justice, and we are all treated the same now. We haven't gotten to where we want to be, but thank God we're not where we used to be. We don't have to sit in the back of the bus anymore. When you put your money in the fare box, you step down off the bus and go in the back. Another figure, if someone Caucasian came and was at the next bus stop and there were no seats, as a black individual, I had the experience. You had to get up and let the Caucasian or other nationality sit in your seat. And I know there were tokens, and to ride the bus was 5 cents. Now today it's $2. Everything has changed for the better, and some things have changed for the worse. But one thing I do know, as a citizen of the United States of America, and as a person who marched in the civil rights movement, saying freedom over here, freedom over there, freedom everywhere. When we marched, the Caucasians came on horses. They weighed about 2,500 to 3,000 pounds. He had a black nightstick in his hand that had lead. He had on a helmet, he had on a mask, and a bulletproof vest. And as we were sitting on the sidewalk on South Decatur Street in Montgomery, Alabama, and now there's the Board of Education building there, they tried to run over us with those horses. There were Caucasians there from Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Connecticut, supporting us in the movement to get justice and equality. But they did not run. They were freedom riders. The man that had on the helmet and the mask and the bulletproof vest and the nightstick with the lead in it, he beat them in the head. And I saw the blood just streaming down their faces. The late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s favorite saying was, "Do not judge me by the color of my skin, but by the contents of my character." We may all have different pigmentations, or we may be all of a different race of mankind, but God created us all, and he loves us just the same. He said that he would not do any more for one than he would do for the other. And God is the same yesterday, today, and if there's tomorrow, he will still be the same. So even though we may not have gotten to where we wanted to be, again, we thank God that we are not where we used to be. I don't have to get up out of my seat and give it to anyone unless it's an elderly person. But when I was a younger girl and I saw an old lady trying to get up out of her seat and she was black, I said, "Ma'am, you don't have to get up. I'll get up and you can have my seat." And she said, "Thank you, baby." I was about 6 years old. I was going to my mom's boss man home on Alabama Street 31. He had a 14-bedroom house, and my mom was the caretaker of those apartments. He only rented to the common laborer. If you drove a truck or a furniture store truck, or if you worked at a brickyard like Jenkins, or if you drove taxi cab, or if you were a carpenter, then he housed those type of individuals so that they would have somewhere to live and shelter from the storm. One thing I do know, we may not be where we want to be, and we know the struggle is not over. And also, the best is yet to come for all races of mankind.